Welcome back. Here we go again. We're going to do album 70 through 61 on my go-to. If you come over to my place sometime, I'll sit down and I would play these for you because they are my go-to albums. This might be long. I have 5 needle drops, so we're just going to jump into it. Though I want to say it's freaking snowing again. It's November 10th, my second snowstorm. Like this much. I had the snow blow already. Sucks. But that's okay. You're not here for the weather. You're here for my go-tos. So let's begin with number 70, Spaceman III. This is Perfect Prescription. It came out in 1987. So this is a group, came out of Rugby, England. And they're generally labeled kind of like a neo-psychedelic band. This was their concept album. Yes, they have a concept album, and the whole concept is about taking a drug trip. And let me tell you, these guys were very qualified to do it. I mean, their first band logo was a needle and syringe. The record company thought maybe not, so they had to get rid of that logo. They were heavily into the whole drugs, and so they did this album. And it starts with taking the drug to coming down from the drug, and the whole album is based upon that. I mean, this is the ultimate, what you could say, nod music. It's heavy, it's spacey, and it's very dreamy. You know, the album begins with the song "Take Me to the Other Side," which is like, it just is this brash, exultant charge. And it's about the joys of the beginning of a drug trip. And you can hear that. I mean, it has a happier feeling, which isn't always easy from Spaceman 3. And the final song is called "The Doctor." Totally different vibe. And it's really about your final come down from those drugs. And that song has this drowsy, and the lyrics are really almost not decipherable. And this husky singing, really, really different. Their songs, what's going on in the background right now is talking to Jesus. So you're on your drugs and you're laying there and you're still feeling pretty good about it. And you begin to talk to Jesus. And this is about that. But what was neat is, you know, Spaceman 3 is known for all this feedback, this wall of sound. Suddenly, here they are with a simple guitar and an organ, and just talking about Jesus there and about the trip. There's the song, what's it called? Things Will Never Be the Same, which it's very disturbing, but it has this energy, and there's this compressed, violent rage that you can feel within this because of this feedback. And there you get that famous Spaceman 3 feedback. It's very rhythmic. Really, really neat stuff. I mean, the vocalists, guitarists, and organ players, you know, they were Sonic Boom and Jason Pierce. And they almost like fight each other on this when you hear them playing. They do a song from the Red Crayola. It's called Transparent Radiation. And man, you listen to that and you think Velvet Underground. But these guys modeled themselves after Velvet Underground. That was a huge influence to them. What's neat is this album, it puts in, you can hear spiritual music, ambient, and gospel. I mean, just right now, just this talking with Jesus, very gospel feel that you could hear into their next albums. It created more serenity, and it was a very mature work for them. What a great album. To me, it was the pinnacle of Spaceman 3, something that I just love to listen to, and I was so happy to find this and get it. Spaceman 3, Perfect Prescription from 1987. Number 69, Gary Numan, Cars, or The Pleasure Principle. And this came out in 1979. This was big in my college years. My goodness, this was one of those amazing albums. Actually, my little brother bought it. He had better record taste than I did. I mean, I'm going to be honest, he did. He was pretty good at picking out albums, and he bought this. Eventually, I got my own copy. This is Gary Numan. It was his very first solo album that he did, and in my opinion, it is like a synth pop new wave masterpiece. There's not a single bad track on this album. He just got into, he picked up like a mini Moog, and he had a poly Moog, and then he got a drum machine, and he combined all that in here and used a solo violin, a solo viola, and man, did he make some great music. I mean, it all starts with a song called Air Lane, which just says beautiful atmospheric instrumental. Then the next one's called Metal, which is kind of a fun album because it's about an android saying, I want to be human. I want to have feelings. Kind of like, you know, how many movies are about that? Thing is, it was such a good song. Even 9 Inch Nails did a copy of that song. And there's just, it has just this killer groove when you listen to it. And just the drum machine, I mean, it just keeps that beat going. Complex, you know, he has this complex use of guitar and the Moog, and it just makes all this really nice atmospheric music throughout the whole album. The side 2, which is what we're listening to right now, it begins with tracks, which just starts with just this light, beautiful type piano going on, and synthesizers come in, and then it kicks in full throttle, and really, and you know, the lyrics pop in. Wonderful piece of music. There's so much energy to it. This had the hit Cars. What's a neat story about Cars is Gary decided, I'm calling him Gary, we're friends. He goes, you know, I want to learn how to play the bass. So he bought a bass. He takes the bass home, and the very first thing he plays on the bass, boom, 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 boom. The opening riff to Cars. The very first thing he played. He goes, I like this. And within 10 minutes, he wrote Cars. When you listen to that song, you'll hear there's this synthesizer. It just hits the note, bah, and just keeps that note until the very end, and then it trickles down. The reason why is he hit that note, and he didn't know what else to do at the time, so he just let it play the whole way through, and then he brought it down. You know, did a couple other notes. Just one of those fun accidents. But Cars was everywhere, and to this day, what a great song. It was about cars are protective. It's like his tank. Great album, a masterpiece. Gary Numan, Pleasure Principle from 1979. Number 68, The Replacements, Let It Be. This came out in 1984. In the mid-80s, I was living in Minneapolis, one of the coldest places on the planet, I personally feel. And The Replacements, Uskadu, Prince, and the time, I mean, they ruled that city. They ruled all over the U.S., didn't they really? Let It Be, this was the album that The Replacements made because they were getting tired of making everything fast and hardcore. this was the first time they kind of sat down and said, you know what, let's do something a little more mature. The title itself, Let It Be, was kind of a kiss off to the Beatles. The whole purpose was just say, hey, the Beatles were just a normal band, so get over it, they're not God. Also, their manager was a huge Beatles fan, so it was just to kind of piss him off a little bit, so that's where they came up with the title. I mean, the album starts, which you can hear in the background, it's the first track, with I Dare, which just has this nice country rock feel to it. But then the next two songs absolutely come out of the gate with their hardcore roots. And you hear Favorite Things and We're Coming Out. And they're just screamers. Blaring guitars, drums beating, warp speed. The replacements from their first few albums. But the thing is, on this album, they have 4 ballads. Not one, not 2, 4 ballads. So it really gave them this whole different feel. You know, one of them is the piano-driven Androgynous. Nice, beautiful ballad. But the one I really liked was Unsatisfied. And you can just hear this wailing cry from Westerberg. I mean, he's just saying, I'm unsatisfied. And it's just this painful cry, raging in despair. There's also this beautiful guitar intro to it. I wish you could play some replacements. The album, I mean, it's still filled with punk songs that show really their garage roots, like they do Black Diamond and always the famous song Gary's Got a Boner. Someone had to write it, right? They wrote it. God, which borrowed heavily actually from Ted Nugent's Cat Scratch Fever if you listen to it. So, hey, I'm sure Ted the Sledge really appreciated that. Fun album, but this showed a more mature replacement. To me, it's the pinnacle album. Let It Be, 1984. Number 66. Number 67. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, from 1977. This was the group's 11th studio album. I think I was one of only 100 people in the world that did not buy it and really didn't like it when it came out. It just, I mean, it was everywhere for those of you that were in the 70s, especially as a teenager. You turned on the radio, you had Fleetwood Mac Rumors playing. You just couldn't miss it. When I hit college, FM radio, it was everywhere. This is their Coke Party album, because they were all up on a lot of coke at that time. Their marriages was disintegrating. I mean, this group was a mess, but they still put together one of those perfect pop albums. Eventually, I came around to liking this, to loving it. They came out with a special edition, so it has 5 different CDs of the different outtakes, along with the vinyl. Wonderful album. It's, well, I guess you could call it pure ear candy. I mean, each song it's such a perfect album. Songs like Dreams, just ethereal. There is Never Going Back Again. It just starts with this really simple acoustic guitar done by Buckingham, just accompanied by Nick Fleetwood. He's using brushes on the drums. So nice, so quiet. Of course, Go Your Own Way, which is the rocker. They just come out and kick ass in that song. Who doesn't know that one? Songbird, a Christy McVie masterpiece. I think it's one of the most beautiful songs. In fact, it's probably my favorite song on this whole album. Her voice is beautiful. Her piano playing doesn't get any better than that. The Chain, which I'm playing right now in the background. It's a really dark song. It has just these ominous guitar and drums. And then suddenly in the middle, John McVie comes with this bass solo. Boom, 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 boom. And then it kicks into high gear. It really rocks. This is one of those important albums of the 70s. It only sold 40 million copies. That's it. It only ruled the airways. It was only the #1 album of the year in 1978. I believe it won the Grammy for that, which is big in the US. Incredible album from a group that was absolutely dysfunctional, but this is their pop album masterpiece, Rumors, number 67. Here we go, number 66. Parliament, Funkadelic versus the Placebo Syndrome. This came out in 1977. The first Parliament album I ever got was the Clones of Dr. Funkenstein. I did not send in my Columbia House Selection of the Month card, so they sent that to me. I look at that and go, what is this? I was living in a town of 2,500 people in the cornfields of Nebraska. When I played the Clones of Dr. Funkenstein, it just got, whoa, this is outstanding. There was absolutely nobody that I could talk to about that album. Nobody understood that. I was pretty sure that I'm the only guy in Schuyler, Nebraska that was playing Parliament. Well, this was their next album. It came out in 1977. And let me tell you, it's a fun, wacky, basically a concept album. It's about Starchild here. And Starchild has a bop gun. He is trying to get Sir Knowles devoid of funk here to dance. But remember, Sir Knowles devoid of funk, he is devoid of funk. He does not want to dance. So, Starchild takes his bop gun, blasts him to try to get him to dance. That's high concept. It's also about the placebo syndrome, which is really important because the placebo syndrome was against consumerism and against listening to disco. The irony of that is this had the big hit Flashlight. Where was Flashlight really popular? On the disco dance floor. So George Clinton, your placebo syndrome didn't quite work. This starts off with Bop Gun, which is in the background, and begins with this single guitar, and then the party just starts on all fronts. There's these great vocals and sing-along choruses that happen. And then the Horny Horns, which is the name of the group, the Horny Horns, figures, doesn't it? They just start layering on the funk. I mean, and then in the very middle, it just stops. And you just hear this drum beat and this spacey organ going on. And then boom, the party begins again. The next song is Sir Knowles Devoid of Funk. And that's sung through a vocoder. So it just has this, kind of this computerized sound to it. And it's just, again, it's about his enemy, Starchild, coming down, wanting to get Sir Knowles Devoid of Funk. But I will never dance. I will never dance. It's filled with nursery rhyme lyrics. They keep going, 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice, and then they sing this nursery rhyme, but they do end it with they go, I love those Mises to pieces. Weird fun party. You talk about an coked up group. These guys were crazy coked up. Actually, George Clinton didn't really pay them any money. He gave them drugs. And then the drugs was their pay. They go, I want money. Well, then, your drugs cost this much. The guy was not a very nice guy. He really screwed over a lot of people. Of course, this has Flashlight. As I said, became a disco favorite. What a great, fun album. Party music. What more can you ask for? Parliament. Funkadelic versus Placebo Syndrome, 1977. Number 65. Morgan Sidewinder. This came out in 1963. Actually got into the stores in 1964. You may ask, what is the best-selling album that Blue Note ever had? It was this one here, the Sidewinder. you know, they originally pressed 4,000 copies, and within a couple days it sold out. So they had to make a whole lot more. The song itself, Sidewinder, Chrysler did a commercial during the World Series. All kinds of TV shows have used that song. And it started the Boogaloo dance craze. I'd do the Boogaloo for you, but I haven't a clue what it is. A little bit before my time. Bobby Gass, maybe you could do it for me. I really enjoyed this album. You know, in the aughts, I was really getting into jazz, buying a lot of CDs, and I had a book that I was looking at trying to find what are the greatest CDs out there of jazz. And this was one that I picked up and immediately loved, and it became a go-to at that time. What I like about this is it's a hard-charging album that never gets boring or repetitive. There's no ballads. It's finger-snapping music. It just keeps going. You know, the drums of Billy Higgins, and the piano of Barry Harris. They don't play anything like super complicated. They just have this nice rhythm that they keep the music flowing in a really positive way. Wonderful stuff. I mean, Sidewinder, you know, the main song on it, it's a jazz classic. It goes for 11 minutes, but what's nice is it gives each player a lot of time to create their solos. You know, a 3-4 minute song, you got to go quick. Not on Sidewinder. They can take that solo, they can expand, they can go wherever they want to, and that's what they do. You know, they had Lee Morgan on trumpet, Joe Henderson tenor sax, Barry Harris piano, Bob Cranshaw on bass, Billy Higgins on drums. I'm going to play you, I believe it's Gary's Notebook. I'm going to play you a sample of that. If you're starting a jazz collection, you have to have this. This is a hard bop classic, very important album. For those of you that love jazz, you know what I mean. This is a beautiful album. Not complicated, very easy to listen to. No free jazz or any of that going on. Just great finger bopping, head bopping type music. Number 65, Lee Morgan's The Sidewinder. Number 64, Ludwig van Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. This was done between 1822 and 1824. Classical music, a good piece of classical music gives me chills, more so than any other type of music, because of the power and the passion. There is so much feeling in classical music. You know, this was Beethoven's last symphony, and it's regarded as the most performed symphony in the world. It was also the very first symphony by a major composer to have voices, to have singing within it. The lyrics were taken right from the poem The Ode to Joy from Friedrich Schiller. You know, most classical pieces from major artists, they did them for the first time in Vienna, but Beethoven wanted to perform this the first time in Berlin, because Vienna was all about Rossini, you know, the opera guy and that. They're all about that. Well, Beethoven's friend said, nah, screw that, screw Rossini, you play it in Vienna, you show him. So he did. And they loved it. They dug it. and Beethoven was happy. By the time he did this, his hearing was basically gone. But yet, in his mind, he heard everything. And when it came to do this for the first time, he asked to conduct it. They had a second conductor there because this guy can't hear, but he knew every piece. And when he was conducting, he was so animated. He was up and he would be down on his knees, and he was just everywhere. It was a show unto itself to watch him conduct. He cannot hear the music, but he knew the music. He knew what each part was, when it was supposed to be. That was the genius of Beethoven. He threw himself into it, flailing everywhere. Incredible stuff. You know the Ninth Symphony. Everybody knows it. It's been in so many movies, so many commercials. It is one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever created. My God! I mean, if you have no classical, buy the Ninth Symphony from Beethoven. It's just goosebumps constant on this. I just couldn't think of anything more beautiful because it's uplifting music. I mean, they go Freud or Freed, I don't know the word, but it's ode to joy, and they keep singing joy throughout it because that's what it's about. Music that's beautiful to this day is about joy. Nothing better than Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Number 63, My Bloody Valentine, Loveless, from 1991. You know, I go from Beethoven to My Bloody Valentine. What can you say? It's my list, right? This album took 3 years to make and $500,000. And I mean, it bankrupted Creation Records, who thought that they were going to do it in just 5 days. Wow, were they surprised. But it's a shoegaze masterpiece. Get this, I best describe maybe as pet sounds combined with Lou Reed's Metal Machine music. I mean, there's this pure noise and feedback going on, but also the shimmering bubblegum type songs, like on the songs I Only Said and When You Sleep. This was an Irish band, 2 men, 2 women. Again, like I said, it was their second album. They have songs like Touched, which is more of an instrumental, and it's just this sonic noise that just drones out of your speaker. Almost like Fripp and Eno were on there having one of their collaborations. They used a lot of samples, but the samples were more guitar feedback, so they could just keep layering it on and on. The vocals, incredible stuff. They just meld perfectly with the trippy sonics, and it really gives an ethereal feel to it. Thus this whole shoegaze. You know, you have songs like Sometimes and Blow and Wish, which have beautiful, breathy vocals. They sound dreamy, very romantic, but then they are embraced by this distorted guitar and feedback. Incredible stuff. You know, the first time I heard this, I thought, what a masterpiece. This is a masterpiece of noise and beauty. I bought some record book, and I was reading through that, and I read about this album because I missed it when it came out. and I bought the CD, and I go, my God, this is amazing. It really introduced me to shoegaze. This was a 2003 reissue that I picked up. Important album, very important album, My Bloody Valentine, Loveless from 1991, number 63. Number 62, ZZ Top, Tres Hombres from 1973. If you like your music kind of low down, sleazy, boozy type boogie music, you need to have this album. This is ZZ Top's third album, and this thing is just filled with gritty, dirty guitars. More songs about sex and whores and everything else. Lots of booze. I mean, this is driving blues rock from a real Texas bar band. But it's also about a group that began to grow and expand. You know, I think of it like this. It's like a top sirloin steak. It's lean and beefy, and there is no gristle. And look at that. What a great Mexican dinner, huh? It was fueled by the hit La Grange, which came off this album, which had this Johnny Lee Hooker boogie feel to it. And also began with Gibbons stalling, har, 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 har. I mean, what a great way to start it off. That propelled this into a gold record and became ZZ Top's first gold record. They add Slow Burner. They have a tune called Hot, Blue, and Righteous. That's just, it slows down that music. But otherwise, this thing rocks from track 1 to track 10. You know, in 1970, ZZ Top played a concert. One person attended. One. But they were playing. It came their intermission time. Billy Gibbons went out, bought a Coca-Cola for that one audience member just to make sure he wouldn't leave and would stick around for the second set. Well, my, haven't they just changed since then? This album opens with what's playing in the background right now, with Waiting on the Bus. And it, you know, it just starts out with the snare and bass drum, and then Gibbons' guitar just takes over, along with the harmonica and a wah-wah guitar. Then it just bleeds into this boogie rock strup and bleeds into the 12-bar Jesus Left Chicago. Beautifully done transition. There's a song, Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. I mean, that's been covered by everyone from Motorhead to Van Halen to Coheed and Cambria. Everyone's done it. Really, to me, my favorite ZZ Top album. This was them at their best. Down, dirty, gritty Texas blues. Number 62, ZZ Top, Tres Hombres from 1973. My final album, number 61, X, Los Angeles from 1980. This was another group I was introduced thanks to the Minneapolis Public Library. Checked it out, listened to it. Let me tell you, Minneapolis Public Library system had awesome albums. It's amazing the punk I learned about that in the early to mid 80s, just by going to the library and checking out albums. Then I would tape them. I learned to like them, then I would find them and buy them. What an incredible debut album. I mean, the players on this, John Doe, Billy Zoom, DJ Bonebreaker, and Christine, a.k.a. Exene Cervenka. I probably said that one wrong. I don't Let me tell you, these guys, they had a really, really deep love for the Doors, which is evident because Ray Manzarek, Manzarek, did I say that right? Probably not, doesn't matter. He plays organ on it as well as produced it. This had just some of the most amazing female-male harmonies. And it was just had this buoyant rockabilly punk guitars going on. It gave them such a unique sound. It just placed them in a whole different place versus other bands. I mean, the album, it just kicks off like a speeding car with your phone, what's it called? Your phone's off the hook, which is what you hear playing in the background. It's a song they're singing about drugs and violence and cruising at a breakneck speed. It hits you like a pipe right in the head and just takes off. There's Johnny Hit and Run Pauline. Again, it's another true rockabilly type song. It just that keeps the momentum going. It's a song about date rape. These guys, it wasn't about kissy here. I mean, these guys were serious with their lyrics. You know, and there's the song Los Angeles that has this Billy guitar, surf guitar riffs going on. It's another song about some woman basically being run out of LA, the city of dreams. Really heavy stuff was coming from this group. You know, really what set this group apart from other punk and hardcore bands is every person on this group was extremely gifted. They could write, they could play their instruments, and, you know, they're labeled as a punk band, but, you know, to me, their roots really fall in rockabilly and country, and you would hear that more and more as they went. Such an incredibly important album that came out in 1980. Great songs, absolutely fantastic instrumentation, and they have something important to say. Number 61, X, Los Angeles, 1980. Everyone, thanks once again for tuning in. Thanks for lasting through this. I put it all on the back for those of you who go, oh God, it's so long. Within 5 seconds, you know, hey, I got them down. Boom, done. I hope you stick around to listen to what I have to say. Thank you, everyone. This has been a lot of fun. Looking forward to the next one. Hopefully by next week. We'll see. It depends on time. Have a great week, everyone, and enjoy. Bye.